Good night and welcome to Big People Conversation. When we were growing up as children in Guyana, there was one thing that we could not do, and that is we could not engage in big people conversation. And for some of us, we long to know what were those conversations about. Sometimes we used to hide behind the chair. We used to do anything that we could so that we can become a part of the big people conversation. And tonight, this is our first episode of Big People Conversation, where we are going to have those hard conversations, those conversations that we were afraid to talk about, um, topics that are so important and crucial to us and our well being, every aspect of our well being. But because we grew up in a society where we never felt free to talk, those conversations were never had. And thus, what we find is we grow up now and we are seeing the repercussions of not having these conversations. We grew up in a culture where sex was referred to as wickedness. I'm sure you remember that. They're doing wickedness. We used to say, he and she are doing wickedness. That is to say, those two people were having sex, they were doing wickedness. Even in our culture, we are not taught the word for the V. I don't know if I can say it on YouTube, but we're not, we say patacake, we say sugar bowl. We have so many names. Good night, William. But we never would say the real scientific name for a woman's private part. Same thing for the male's private part. We say pidgey wing, we say Lolie, but we will never say the real names. And so we grow up and we never have these conversations. And then we became adults. And as adults, we're having sex. We are cohabiting. But guess what? We are not expressing our needs. And that's what happens is that you grow up, you never talk about this stuff. And so when time comes now when you're an adult and this is the time to have the conversation, this is the time to express yourself, this is the time to say what your needs are, we do not say anything. And so we go about lives and we have women, thousands of women who have never experienced what is called an orgasm. Why? Good night, darling. Because we grew up in this culture that said that's big people conversation, and we're not going to have big people conversation. So tonight we are going to start with what we as Guyanese call our patacakes. We are going to start with our patacake because that our patacakes are really our glory. It's the place where we give life to the world. This is the place where we experience the greatest human experience comes from our VV. I think on YouTube I cannot say the word, so I'll refer to it as VV, or I'll use our Guyanese word, which is patacake. Now, the first question, and this is important both for men and women. If you are a woman, the question I want to ask you is, what is your relationship with your patty cake? That is to say, do you like it? You don't like it? You just have an indifferent relationship to it? I don't think about that. It's just there. This is very crucial. Your relationship with your patty cake is one of the most important relationship you are going to have in this life. So the first thing you have to know is, how do I take care of this space that is the seat of life? That's where we start from. How do I take care of her? The next thing is, how do I speak up for my patty cake? one of the things that you have to do is you have to speak up for your Patacake. Your Patacake doesn't have a voice. The voice of your Patacake is your voice. And so many women, they do not express their needs when it comes to what's happening to them in the Patacake. So, for instance, if they're with a man and they're engaging in intercourse, and the man is asking the woman, the man is saying, you know, the man might experience an orgasm, and the woman is there, and he might ask her, have you experienced an orgasm? And that woman would lie and she would say no, or she might say yes. I mean, I know of a case where this woman, this husband used to be drunk. He doesn't know how to prepare the woman and how to prepare her cake for the sexual experience. We're going to talk about that on a different time. I'm just talking about giving voices to her cake. And so what happens is he would just come in and he would just have intercourse with her, and she would just bear it. She just bore it. Can you imagine that? She just was praying, Father, let this thing finish, because it was not a pleasant experience for her. And she lived like that for years with this man. Good night. She lived like that for years with this man and never spoke exactly what she wanted and what she was feeling. Why, you might say to yourself, why would a woman, why can't she just express herself? Why can't she just say what's going on inside? Why can't she just express her needs? It is because, one, we grew up in a culture that is very taboo, where we are not taught to express our needs. And William says, concerning those topics, we were brought up in ignorance. Exactly. So we were not taught to express our needs. It was seen as wickedness. Imagine you grew up in a culture where it's seen as wickedness. Perhaps you have gone through some kind of abuse and that silenced your voice more. So now you're not speaking up. So then it is important that not just the woman knows how to speak up for her cake, but it's also important that the man understands what is going on with the woman. He has to understand that. You cannot be in a relationship where all you're thinking about is, oh my gosh, I just need to orgasm. I just need to orgasm. I'm not going to think about her. You have to think about her needs. That is one thing I could say about my mother. My mother was very adamant about teaching my brothers how to make sure that they put the needs of the woman first. And this is, it's knowledge. If you're a man, say you're a man and you have a partner, you have to pay attention to the song she's making. You have to pay attention to all of her, all of the way she's talking to you non-verbally with her body. You have to pay attention. It's like the game we used to play when we were children. Do you not know that game where we used to say fire, fire, water, water. We say fire when the person is getting nearer to the stuff, and then we say water when the person was farther away from the stuff. I think engaging in intercourse is the same way. You have to pay attention to if you're getting to fire or if you're getting to water. So you have to listen to the woman, look at her body movements. Just don't take it for granted if she says yes, yes, because we come from a society where our women are not taught to speak up for themselves. So that woman might say yes to you when she is in agony. She might say yes when she's not enjoying not one aspect of this, what's happening, because she came from a place, good night, Rakesh. She came from a place where she was never thought to speak up for herself. So the man You, as a man, if you're a man, you have to understand that. And not only understand that, you have to try things. Now, suppose you don't want to ask, suppose you still feel like, I don't want to talk about this thing because we don't talk about it. If you don't want to talk, excuse me, pay attention to our responses. What touch looks as if it's getting her closer to fire? What touch looks as if it's carrying her closer to water? Pay attention. Is she just there? Sometimes a woman might not speak, but she might make other sounds. So listen for that. Listen for how she's speaking to you, and you pay attention to that. Let that be your guide. But I think more than anything else, we have to get to that place where in our minds, first of all, we don't think that having conversations about intercourse is wickedness. It's actually knowledge. And for the lack of knowledge, the people perish. If you lack the knowledge of how to love a woman or how to love a man, the person is going to perish and they will never experience the height of intercourse. And I think every person has a right to be able to get to that mountaintop. Every person deserves the opportunity to get to that mountaintop and to experience that orgasmic experience. Because you see, an orgasmic experience is not just about intercourse, it's about release, it's about health, it's about your body flowing and being at a level where it's really being its best and you're actually functioning at your best. So all that sexual energy is not just left inside of you, bottled up, reserved, and cannot come out. It's important that it gets a chance to express itself fully. When a person is fully satisfied, when that person is fully in the experience, they actually show up in life differently because they have reached the zenith of that experience. So I think that this space that we are creating here is going to be a very safe space. It's going to be a space where we can actually have conversations about how do I get from here to amazing? How do I get to that amazing place where I can be the best person for my partner, where I can get my partner to this next level? We're going to have those kinds of conversations. We're also going to have conversations about how do we take care of ourselves as women and as men? How do we become better lovers, better kissers? How do we show up as our loving selves? Because we really do not have these conversations. We don't talk about these things. Why? Because of the culture that we came up in. So this space is going to be a space for that. And guess what? If there's a question that you want to ask, I don't care what the question is. This is a space of knowledge. This is a space of becoming better. What you want to do is you want to become a connoisseur. You want to become a professional at everything that you do, because one of the things that's really happening in our society that nobody's talking about is when men are inept, when a man doesn't know what to do, or when he doesn't understand what to do, when he doesn't understand the kind of actions to take, when he doesn't know that he has to be sensual and soft because he has never had that conversation with a woman in his life, or the woman has never had that conversation. They have never sat down face to face and say, what is the most amazing experience that I can give you? What does that look like? We don't have that conversation. And the woman doesn't say to the man, okay, what is it that I can do for you so that you can have this most amazing experience? How can I touch you? We don't talk about that. Can you imagine if we say, okay, let's sit down and we're going to talk about how to actually touch and how to wake up your partner and how to start getting to that place where you get people to feel? Can you imagine if we have these wholesome conversation and stop thinking that This is a bad thing. This is wickedness. We don't talk about these things. Can you imagine how much more better, how better our relationships will be because we're having these, what I like to call, hard conversations. When a man is inept and he doesn't know, when he's not aware that, you know what, my job is to bring this woman to an orgasm. If that woman is not satisfied, and this is something you have to understand, if you have a wife or a woman and she's not satisfied, and you are just like, just thinking about yourself, once you're okay, you're good, she's going to have a man with you. Yes, she's going to have a man who knows exactly where to touch her, how to touch her, because sex, that's an energy, that's a lot of built up. So she can't keep it in there. Some women will suffer, but for the most part, all women will not suffer. So don't fool yourself into thinking that because you're not satisfying her, she's not being satisfied. And the person who might be satisfying her might be somebody you wouldn't pay a pint of parrot piss for because you would say you're hardworking, you're doing everything, you can do everything. But you see, the person who knows exactly how to touch it, exactly where the sweet spot there, they're gonna take, she's gonna take your money and she's going to go and she is going to give it to the man who knows where the sweet spot is. Yes. And you will remain a hard worker. That's why you see sometimes in our culture, men come home and they just chop up from Harry right to Harry wrong. Why? Because of the frustration of finding out what's happening in their relationship. No, you don't have to believe me. I have had, I had a friend, I will never call that name. This woman used to left in the morning and she had one sweet man in the morning. When she done work in the afternoon before she go home, she had another sweet man before she went home. So she had two different sweet man every single day. And when you see she went home, best wife, best wife that man could have asked for. The man was a hardworking man. The man was doing everything that he needed to do to make sure that he provided for his family. His only problem was he did not have the knowledge of knowing how to get to that sweet spot. And so we might want to say, you know what, that's not important. I'm not going to have conversations about this. But guess what? If you don't, you are going to suffer. And you might live your entire life as a man, not knowing that somebody else is giving the wife what you're supposed to give her while you are there thinking everything is okay. And that is why I think one of the first things, sit down with your wife or your husband and ask, am I really truly pleasing you? Am I touching you the way you want to be touched? Like, have that conversation. Am I doing the right thing? Is this too hard? Is this too easy? If you don't even want to think, sit down, get a feather. If she tell you your hand too hard, get a feather, catch a foul, go outside, get a foul feather. And I just sit down and then you just take the foul feather and you just ask it, this good, this hard, this good enough, this thing, and get to the place where you are an expert. It is crucial that we have these kinds of conversations. And that is why this space is going to be is created for that. This is a space where we are going to talk freely, get better at what we might already be good at. And if we're good, we're going to get better. And if you're better, we're going to get to amazing. And we're going to talk about every aspect of this, how to keep things tight, how to, what to do, what not to do, how to make it better, how to become a professional at every aspect of it. That is the space that we want to create here. All right, guys, do not be afraid to ask questions. Do you have any questions that you want to ask? Now I studying this thing like if it's an exam, so that when I come to you, I am coming to you with the right information. This is like an exam for me. So we're doing everything, how to do this, how to do that, every single topic we're going to discuss in Big People Conversation. Remember when we were children? How we wanted to become a part of Big People Conversation, how we wanted to know what is it they were saying, what is it they were talking about? And we never, some of us never, unless we eavesdrop. We don't have to eavesdrop here. We're going to sit and we're going to talk about everything. We're going to have conversations about how do you develop a great relationship with your Patacake? How do you make it the most amazing part of you? Because some people, their Patacake is like a not an extension of their body. Like they don't feel connected to it. Like it's just there. No, you're the voice. Whatever that feels, you are the voice. Your mouth expresses what that feels. We're going to talk about every single topic that has to do with big people conversation. And we're going to meet the same time every Saturday night as we go on this journey. Do you have any questions? Because tonight it's just the introduction and talking about Lolie, Patacake, and Wickedness. The reason why we are where we are today, as I said before, is because we did not grow up in a space where we can just talk, just have these conversations. We didn't grow up in that space. So what do? Do we remain ignorant all of our lives? Do we remain afraid to speak clearly and plainly? No, what we do is we grab the bull by the horn and we have these conversations. And we're going to have them right here in this space that's called Big People Conversation. All right. Yeah, make me feel like attacking to myself. Do you have a question? Not frightened for ask. We can talk about everything. Even if you're only soft in our work, there much thing that people use back home for help people with their lowly. Even if your pancake big, we gonna teach you how for close, tight, squeeze, everything we gonna learn right is so. All right. So thank you so much for stopping in tonight. And remember, this is the space that we are going to have those conversations. If personally you feel that you're not ready for this, don't it's okay. You don't have to be in this space. If you think like, oh my gosh, I've never heard all this thing being talked so plainly, I don't want to be in it, that's okay too. Because not everyone will ever be fully ready for topics that were truly tabooed in our culture. It really calls for a lot of courage to sit and to enlighten and educate people in this specific area right here. All right, so thank you so much for watching, and remember, you don't have to remain ignorant. You can gain the knowledge that you need to become the best version of yourself and fully and truly live. All right, I see that there are no questions, so I'm going to be taking my leave of you guys for tonight. And do take care of yourself. And remember that both your Patacake and your Lolie, they are part of who you are. And just start to ensure that you're treating them like the sacred space that they are in your life. All right? Take care, especially if you've gone through any kind of trauma with that. Okay. Ta-ta. Bye-bye. Next Saturday night, right here. Then we're going to start getting to topic one at a time, top to bottom. Okay? Take care. Tata.